productivity tips or productivity hacks so that you don't burn out. So all of you have got, have access to the job stacking online course, but obviously not all of you have gone through all of it. And, even if you have, I don't expect you to have gone through it multiple times and memorized everything I've said. So some of what I'm about to say, it's already in the course. I've discussed it before, but you have me right now here live talking about it. So the first thing to not burn out, right? Like the first thing, that when you're working multiple jobs and you're thinking, well, how am I going to do this, right? Like, because you've worked one job before, and you feel like sometimes that one job can take so much effort, right? Like so much of your time, so much of your mental bandwidth. And if you're here in this program, it's because you believe it's possible, it's doable to work multiple jobs. Some of you have worked multiple jobs and have experience with that. But some of, a lot of people, you may still have some like doubts about like execution, right? Like, and we can get into execution details, right? Like that's part of the program. Like you can, if there's any hiccups in the middle, like we can sort them out. But in general, the way that you want to approach productivity when working multiple jobs is stop worrying about the ceiling of productivity, stop worrying about how much you can give, and start worrying about the floor, figuring out the floor, like how much should you give, how much can you give without getting in trouble, right? Because the key is that you want to produce good enough work, like you want to produce, you want to work, you want to do acceptable work for the employer. This isn't about, there are some like more extreme advocates of job stacking that are about like fleecing employers, about like basically scamming them into doing nothing. If you have an employer that allows you to do literally nothing, like and you're fine and they're happy with it, I'm not going to tell you like, oh yeah, you got to ramp that up. if naturally that happens, that's okay. But we shouldn't go with the intention of like, oh, I'm going to, my intention is to like scam the employers I'm going to be working with, in the sense of like, my plan is doing nothing, right? I've always said that number one, doing nothing will get you in a world of hurt. Like it will get you in a lot of trouble, because I'm getting a little bit, I'm jumping all over the place because everything's connected, right? But when you worry about the floor is never going to be zero in real life, or almost never. Like I said, like if you find that unicorn job where you can literally, and I mean literally, do nothing, right? Like zero, maybe like answer, maybe check your email. That's all you have to do. Or maybe just have like your MS Teams status on green, and that's all you have to do. Great, you're a very lucky man. But in most cases, we have the situation where the floor is never going to be zero, right? Like there's always something you have to do. And this is particularly, this is prevalent during onboarding, right? Like onboarding, it's a lot of fluff. It's a lot of like, watch this, do it, but you got to do it, right? Like, especially if they have like check marks or like milestones that you have to complete, and you have to give proof that you have completed them. Then, the floor is almost never going to be zero. And there's a huge, and while employers are happy, right? So here's the key to figuring out. So again, I'm bouncing around because everything's connected, okay? So if you have any questions, if I lost you, just put it in the chat. But again, taking it back to the ceiling floor, right? When you have a single job, what the single employment paradigm wants you to do is like, well, you have one single employer. You gotta be as productive for that employer within the work hours, within regular working time as you can. So if you have nothing to do, you're supposed to kind of like raise your hand, ask for more work, or just just keep solving tickets, right? Like keep solving tickets, never stop, work never ends, just more. When in reality, right, like even though there's always more work to be done in the pipeline, it doesn't matter if all that work gets completed in 1 day or 2 days or 3 days or 4 days, right? Like there's always a limit, right? Like, so this is what I'm talking about, the ceiling and the floor, right? You got to figure out the floor. You got to figure out how many days, right? Like talking about solving tickets, for instance, how many days or how many tickets per day is it okay for you to solve, right? Like, is it okay for you to deal with? Okay. And what I tell people that tell me like, oh, I'm so busy at my work, like, oh, how do working multiple jobs is impossible. How do you guys do this? I'm so busy, right? Like, number one, there's always some kind of ego aspect involved, right? Like people are too self-important. They're somehow their ego is tied to their work. So they want to make it seem as like what they're doing is important. They're so busy all the time, right? Like it used to be that leisure was a high status symbol, right? Like the more leisure you had, the less work, the less servile work you had to do, the better. Now it's the opposite. Now the more leisure you have, the more leisure you have, the worse you seem. Like you seem like a slacker, like a parasite. So you have to, people are always kind of in this mode of like, oh, I have to ramp up. I have to create this theater of me being super productive. Now, what happens is that sometimes it's true, and sometimes there's people that are just like they're like locked in at their work and at their job, and they're like always in calls, always producing, always doing something, right? But for most, in reality, they could ease up, they could take their foot off the gas, and things would be probably fine, right? Like, especially in your case, in most cases, okay? I see a comment here. I see this. Let me see. I see this all the time when people complain about remote work. They say stuff like, "I always end up working late," and nonsense like that. It's posturing, and they want you to talk to them like a baby. It's like, yeah, and maybe they do end up working late because they spent all day doing something not related to work. So it's like if you add it all up, they worked 2 hours that day, but it took them 12 hours to complete those 2 hours. So this is the next point, right? Like, there's a lot of posturing. There's a lot of ego tied to like how busy you are, precisely because employers don't pay for productivity per se. They pay for you to be available. And so they don't know how to measure productivity. And so people, you got to sign some work. And then what people tend to do is like they stretch it out. Like they stretch, like, there's actually like 1 hour of work, like, really focused work. Like you could get it done in 1 hour. But you have to attend meetings, right? Like you have to go to the stand-up, and then you got to go to the all hands, and then you got to go to the thing, to the whatever, and then you got to go to lunch with with your coworkers, and then you have to do this other thing, and then you have to complete the Jira ticket documentation, and there's a lot of things that you have to juggle that are basically busy work, right? Like, but that you could just like easily handle. Like if you just focus an hour and a half, get it done. Okay. Or maybe you don't get it done, but here's the thing, right? Like one of the key aspects to managing productivity when working multiple jobs is the concept that I call plausible reportability, right? So plausible reportability is that you are never at zero. Like you always have your hands not full, but with something you can show. Like your boss comes in and tells you, show me what you've been working on, or show me what you're working on. You never want to be in a position of saying like nothing, I don't know, or like scrambling to show them something. You always want to have immediate report. Like, yes, I'm working on this. I'll have it ready. I'm not sure when I'll have it ready. Probably tomorrow, end of day, or I'll let you know if I don't think I'm going to meet that deadline. Great, that's what they like. That's it. They leave you alone if they're a man. If they're a man, they're going to leave you alone. So female bosses are a different beast. They want to control the process. They tend to be more micromanaging. Not that there are any men that are not micromanagers. There are, but usually male bosses will be a lot more like just let people work. Like they'll do the thing, right? So you want to have plausible reportability for each of your jobs. You want to have something that you can immediately resort to explain what you're doing, or you're in the middle of something. So you never want to go to zero. The floor is never zero. Remember this. Like you're almost never gonna get those jobs, or again, maybe you can get one of those, but you're not gonna get 3 jobs where you're doing literally nothing. A lot of the claims that you see online are hyperbolic. Like it's just people making stuff up, right? Like it's just people exaggerating, right? Like, oh, I do nothing. Like I have 11 jobs and I do nothing. And like I have 11 jobs, but I have them all subcontracted, and the subcontractors are working, right? Like there's a daily report that they give me that I give to the employer. There's never a point where we're just like, oh yeah, like we're not doing nothing. So the floor is never going to be zero, okay? The ceiling, forget about the ceiling, right? It's like, put it out of your mind. Like there's no ceiling. It doesn't exist. And it doesn't exist not because it's so high, but because it doesn't matter. Floor, figure out fast, quickly. Figure out the floor of productivity, which is you run safe experiments, which is you see, for instance, you finish a piece of work, like it's done. And instead of saying, right, like instead of conveying to your boss that, hey, I finished it, right, like just being all eager, like, the teacher said, like, I finished my homework. Can I have some more homework, please? You keep it like you test the waters. You tell them something. You tell your boss something like, hey, I'm still working on this. It's probably going to take, a day or two. Is that okay? And you gauge their response, right? Like you're not gonna lose your job because in a couple of tasks it took you, a few days, or even one task, it took you a couple of days. So you'll see their reaction. If they react something violently, they react aggressively against that. Then you have an idea that your boss, he's kind of a ball buster. He's kind of busting everybody's balls here. And then you gauge, it's like, oh, it's a high expectations kind of place, right? But if your boss is all like, yeah, cool, thank you, great, let me know when you're done, then you can even surprise him the next day. Something, hey, it actually took one day, it took 2 full days, and you end up looking well. But now you know that for those type of tasks, they do accept, let's say, extended, like stretched out estimates, right? Like you taking some more time, or like I said, to the contrary, you will see the response, and maybe they don't like it, and maybe you realize like, well, they're a little bit more high expectations kind of place, so the floor is a little bit higher, right? So then the next thing is. So plausible reportability, right? Let's go back to that concept. You play with that. Again, always have something to report. You test their limits about how long it takes you to deliver something without getting in trouble. It's best if you do this once the task is already completed, because that way you can like turn it around and like, show like, hey, I finished it. It's done now. You don't want to be testing the waters when you're at zero, right? Like you don't want to be doing that when you have nothing to report, when you have nothing to show, because then that you're running the risk, like it's not good, right? Like it's not a good look, right? Like it is neutral if you say, I have this task, I don't know when I'm going to finish it, probably 1 more day, 2 more days, right? And then they get mad, right? Like they go like, no, this is unacceptable. We need it sooner. That's different. Like that's ends up if you deliver the task on time or even before when you agreed, you can not only is it kind of neutral, but you can even turn it into a positive. Now you're the guy that's like, oh, he actually delivers, right? Like he's a team player. He's efficient at his work. So you want to run these experiments again once you get used to the work that you're doing and not starting, not having done zero work. Okay, again. There's a big difference between 0 and a little bit. there's a universe of difference between 0 and 1, right? Or 0 and 0.1. So if you have 0, you're screwed. Like don't do that. Don't go with the mentality of like, oh, I'm gonna do nothing at my jobs. Go with the mentality of I'm gonna do work, right? Like I'm gonna do good work. I'm gonna, like, at least for me, be efficient with the tasks that I have to do. And then I'm going to test the waters of, are they expecting, do they know, basically, do they know this, this particular task takes a couple hours, right? Like, because that has happened to me in the past where I would give like a crazy estimate and the technical lead or something, he would know. And he would say that takes like 2 hours at most. Why is it taking, why do you say it's going to take you 48 hours? And then I know, I go like, oh, okay. So this guy knows. So it's a little bit, trickier. Again, it's not trickier. Like the floor is higher. Now the floor is higher. The floor of productivity. So plausible reportability. Again, it's about having something to report, but not just at one job, at all of your jobs. So how do you? This is right. Like this is the core of the lecture of today. How do you achieve plausible reportability when you have 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 4 jobs? There are 2 ways basically. There's like the just strict mathematical division of labor or division of time. And then there's more the heuristic, the one that I implement the most, which is the heuristic one, the one that playing it by ear, figuring out, how each of them, how each employer takes it. And usually what I do is like the heuristic way, the more the softer way, right? Like the less strict way is that you work on something, right, for one employer until you reach something that is reportable. What that looks like, it will be different for each role, right? For each type of field, right? So if you're in coding, like for instance, if you find a blocker, like if you were coding something and you discover a blocker, something that stops you from working, and I guess that applies, that can be generalized to other roles as well. But if you are doing something, you're doing a task and you find something that blocks you, that's something to report. If the task has 5 subtasks, if you complete 1 or 2, right, like depending on how easy, how fine-grained the tasks are, right, like if one of the tasks takes you 1 hour, sometimes it's hard, like you need to gauge it yourself, right? Like sometimes it's hard to pass a 1 hour task as like a full day task. It's not impossible. A 1 hour task is not 0, right? But like you usually know, right? Like it's like, this is not a reasonable update, right? Like saying like, oh, I changed the color, the background color on a website, right? Like, oh, I changed the background color on the website. It took 24 hours, like 8 hours, sorry. Usually you want to say, you want to do a couple more things like, I change the color, change the font. And right now you want to have something. So here's the thing, right? Like this is part of plausible reportability. You want to have something that you did that makes sense, like a unit of work that you did, that you completed, that makes sense if you can, right? Like sometimes your report is going to be that you haven't finished it. Again, the blocker or what I was talking about. But you always you also always have to have something that you're working on right now. So I changed the color of the background color of the website, changed the font, and currently I am working on uploading all the, re-uploading all the images, according to the task that needs to be done. And after that, and if you can even provide, this makes you look very professional. Like if you already provide kind of like a plan of what you're going to do next, right? Like, so right now I'm working on this. Next, I'm going to be taking this other task. That makes you look even better. Okay. So that is a very good update. I did this, I completed this, currently working on this other thing. And after this other thing is done, I have a roadmap of what I got to do. You can alternatively say, hey, because this can also, you don't have to make things up, right? Like maybe once you finish this, there's nothing, the current, when I say this, I mean the current task that you're working on. Once you finish the current task, maybe there's nothing, you don't know what to do next, or maybe there's nothing else to do. You can say, like, again, that is a report. I'm not sure what I should jump to next once I'm done. And that way you look proactive. You look like you are on top of things. You look like you're professional. You're not just you're not just like drowning with work and don't know how to approach things, don't know how to prioritize your work, right? That's a very good update. I completed this amount of work. I'm currently working on this other task. And once this task is done, I have my eye set up. I have my eye set on another one. But this is for each job. Again, remembering this is for job stacking, right? Like you can apply this to your, if you have one job, right? Like this is what I'm saying, works if you only have, even if you have only one job, so that, the rest of your time you can dedicate it to something else. But if you have multiple jobs, the idea is that you achieve plausible reportability on job 1, and then you move on, you work on job 2 until you achieve plausible reportability on job 2, and then you move to job 3, do the same, job 4, job 5, however many jobs you have. Again, the trick is to never be caught. Like you have to imagine if your boss called you out of the blue, not a scheduled call, not a scheduled stand up. If they call you out of the blue, could you respond to the question, what are you doing? What's up? What's up with the task that you were assigned, right? Like if you have an answer for that, if you have a concrete answer, then, and you're on top of things, meaning that you know the status of each task, then you're good. That is, you have achieved plausible reportability. Now, this is very heuristic. This is very empirical of I kind of feel this this is a good update. I kind of feel like this is not a good update. I can't give you a measurable unit of work because Well, I guess if we believed in the labor theory of value, or the the LTV, the labor theory of value, we we could, from Karl Marx, we could give a work estimate for every, a value estimate for every task. But we don't live in that world, so it's very hard for me to like give you specific um, things that you could report on each type of job, right? Like I could speak very eloquently about coding, about tech, right? My own background. But if you're like an electrical engineer, or like you're like a, I don't know, something else, like a data analyst, a project manager. Well, I am one of my jobs is a project manager, so I could speak about that as well. But something else, something I don't know. I don't have as much expertise. I don't have like specific, like, yeah, you should report this, whatever thing that makes sense. So that's why I'm giving it more kind of like empirical, heuristic touch of like you have to know, like, and you have to run those experiments of figuring out the floor of productivity, but safely. Like you don't want to look like an idiot. Like you can look. It's okay to look kind of like, yeah, I don't know, like this, like you're struggling with a particular task. You just don't want to create a pattern that you're always struggling with all your tasks, right? Like it's okay, it's normal for workers to occasionally struggle with the things that they're working on, but it's not, number one, it's not normal for them to keep it to themselves. Usually when there's issues, the expected response is for you to bring it up, like for you to give visibility to that. But there's, if you're constantly struggling, then you're gonna go to the chopping block. Like nobody likes a guy that doesn't pull his weight. Okay, so you have to figure it out. Like you have to determine the floor. This is something on you. We can help you, right? Like we can help you, interpret your boss's responses, that sort of thing. Like that's what we're here for. But like the actual, like, on the ground work of figuring out the floor of productivity, you have to discover it on your own. Okay. Now there's another approach which is a little bit more more strict and less nuanced. It's more like just like X amount of time, which is simple. It's really obvious if you think about it. You just take the amount of jobs that you have and you divide it by 8 hours, and you simply set up an alarm and you dedicate X amount of hours, right, to each job, right? So if you have 2 jobs, you dedicate 4 hours a day, job 1, the 4 hours a day, job 2. Okay, very simple. Or if you don't, if sometimes dividing it by hours by day doesn't work, and I don't think working 8 hours, actually working a full 8 hours it's totally exhausting. It's like, it's a lot of work working 8 hours a day, like working with the mind, right? Like working in front of a computer and thinking, and white collar work, it's a lot. I'm not saying that physical work, like you could work 8 hours a day, and it's easy, but 8 hours is a lot of work, a lot of time. So maybe you don't want to maybe you don't want to divide it by the work hours. Maybe you want to divide it by day, right? So you have 2 jobs, 5 days. Maybe dedicate 2 days and a half to the first job. Maybe you dedicate, and then you dedicate the last 2 days and a half to the second job. But maybe that doesn't work, because again, like that leaves you with 2.5 days where you have nothing to report. So maybe what you do is that you have day 1, Monday, job 1, Tuesday, job 2, Wednesday, job 1, Thursday, job 2, Friday, job 1, and then you cycle it like that, right? Like you divide it by day instead of by hours. So, right. So you have, you dedicate one entire day to a particular employer, and then you dedicate the other day. And in this entire day, you have to have basically like enough work done that can cover you for the next day, where you're not going to necessarily be too involved in working that job, right? These are all suggestions. I personally, I've tried all these approaches. I like the heuristic one the best, but that's just my personality. I kind of like, I don't like dividing things strictly in numbers and like having those rigid schedules. I'm more of like an ebb and flow kind of guy. And sometimes you get wrapped up in well, I'm no longer working any of my, I'm talking about the past, right? Like all my jobs are subcontracted. right now. But when I was working like 3, 4 jobs, sometimes I would get wrapped up in just swept away by one of the tasks from one of my jobs. And I couldn't do it's very hard to do the neat, I'm just going to work 4 hours. But if you have that type of personality, if you are like you have those organizational skills, they're not required to do job stacking, but they're going to help you, right? Like they're going to serve you well. So you can take that approach, right? Like that's how you work multiple jobs. This is how agencies work with multiple clients. Again, the twist of job stacking, the little the big development that job stacking provides is that you're treating employers or you're treating jobs like clients, right? Like as if you were an agency that has multiple clients and you just have to deliver work, right? And so agencies don't. This is the problem, right? Like this is the big mentality shift. With employment, employees think that all work is instant, right? Like you just have to deliver. You have to work. When you're assigned to work, you have to start working it instantaneously. And then once you're finished, you have to deliver it instantaneously. There's no turnaround. There's no, 2 working day policy to give you a buffer, right? Which there's not. So you have to implicitly create it, right? Like you have to set those boundaries for yourself, right? In the back and forth of working, right? But it comes from you. It comes from your shift and your mentality of dealing with employers as if they were clients. Okay, like for instance, I mean, you guys are my clients, right? Like you guys are my students, and when we do your resume, I don't, you don't expect. I don't tell you like, yeah, the resume will be done in like 1 hour or like something crazy, like 1 business day or nothing. Like I give my team time to work on your resume, work on other, your resume, yours. I'm talking about you, and then another client's resume at the same time, and then so that my team does not make mistakes, so that they're not pressured because every deliverable has to be instantaneous, right? So even in that example, I give you a buffer, like I give you an estimate, like it's going to be ready between 1 week. If it takes too much, it's going to be 2 weeks. Whatever, I don't know. That's how you have to start looking at it. The difference is, of course, that the client business relation in this case it's explicit. In employment, for now, it's not. I believe in the future, job stacking is going to be done in the open. I believe, and this is kind of like getting off topic, but I do believe that the future of work is job stacking. I don't believe the full-time arrangement is working for anybody right now. I think employers are suffering trying to carry the weight of what it entails to give people full-time jobs, and people are obviously, you guys are here because the full-time employment from one job, from one employer is not enough, right? Like you are not getting enough. It's not because you're greedy. It's not because you're lazy or anything of the sort. It's just like the full-time arrangement is not working, right? Like it's not working. They're not paying enough to justify the investment, the life investment, the energy, the time investment that you're giving to them. And they kind of know it, but it's just like they haven't, the process doesn't have enough inertia yet to kind of like destroy the whole thing, the old employment paradigm, but it's slowly getting there. Like it's slowly building momentum. 2025 is going to be the year of job stacking. So congratulations on all of you for being ahead of the curve. It's still early, but yeah, that's, I kind of lost my train of thought there, but yeah, that's the main idea of how to work, how we manage to work multiple jobs, multiple full-time jobs. It's because they are clients and we have our turnaround policy, right? Like, and it's implicit, it's not explicit. We can't just tell them like, hey, any work that you give me, it's going to take 2 business days, at least 2 business days. Like you can't come up with like, it's something like that is a constant negotiation, which is part of why employment is so annoying and so exhausting, is because people have to negotiate their workload basically every day, right? Like it's like a constant negotiation. There's no way you can't, as an employee, you can't come in with your like own policy of like, yeah, I don't I don't work on Thursdays, and 2 business days for any tasks that you assign me. Like you don't get to do that, right? Like you are dependent You are supposed to be available to work during work hours, and that's it. Remember that if employers could make you work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they would. Like, they don't care if you die. If they could, they would. But they have legal limits. Like, employers basically, I mean, there are some employers that are good about it, but it comes from the fact that we have all these legislation protecting workers. And so they tend to not have ethics nor morals. They only tend to have legal limits.